Recapping Paul's Journeys. Third Missionary Journey.
In 53 AD, Paul traveled to Galatia and Phrygia to strengthen the disciples. Upon arriving in Ephesus, he met 12 followers of John the Baptist, who, upon hearing about Jesus, were baptized and spoke in tongues and prophesied. Paul spoke boldly in the synagogue for 3 months, but after being maligned by the Jews there, he took the disciples to the lecture hall of Tyrannus, where he had daily discussions for 2 more years, until all the Jews and Greeks in the Roman province of Asia had heard the word of the Lord. He even performed miracles, whereby handkerchiefs and aprons that touched him healed the sick. Some Jewish priests, known as the 7 sons of Sceva, tried to cast out a demon on their own and were beaten up by the possessed man. Other people burned their books of sorcery. Around this time, Paul wrote 1 Corinthians to the church in Corinth. In 56 AD, Paul passed through Macedonia and Achaia on his way to Jerusalem, sending his 2 helpers, Timothy and a disciple named Erastus, back to Macedonia to await his return, as Paul intended to go to Rome. In Ephesus, the Silversmiths staged a riot against Paul and his companions, shouting, "Great artist of the Ephesians," for 2 whole hours. Apparently, so many people were becoming Christians that it was hurting the idol-making business. Fortunately, the city clerk was able to calm the crowd down before things got out of hand. Around this time, Paul wrote a letter to the Christians in Rome and a second letter to Corinth. Paul traveled through Macedonia to Greece, where he stayed for 3 months. He was about to sail for Syria when he learned of another plot against his life and changed his route back through Macedonia, and then hopped on a ship from Philippi to Troas, where he met up with 7 more workers, including Timothy. In Troas, Paul raised a young man from the dead after he fell asleep during Paul's sermon and fell 3 stories to his death. Moral of the story? Don't fall asleep in church.
Yeah, I know.
While his companions took a ship.
The ruins of Assos include crumbling city walls, a temple to Athena, a gymnasium, and a Greek theater that seated 5,000 people.
Then Paul boarded their ship and sailed with them to Mytilene, Chios, Samos.
Birthplace of Pythagoras, Samos has a wonderfully preserved Greek theater and a massive temple to Hera, known as the Herion,
and Miletus, but skipped Ephesus because he was in a hurry to get back to Jerusalem.
Miletus was a major center of Greek culture, with the Delphinium, temple to Apollo, the baths of Faustina, wife of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, Ionic Stoa, or covered walkways, and the Agora, or marketplace, and the Theater of Miletus, which seated 15,000 spectators.
In Miletus, he committed the elders to God, warning them that he would never see their faces again. Then he sailed to Kos.
Kos was a center of healing, with luxurious villas like the Nymphaeon, an Agora market, a Roman Odeon, and the Asclepion Healing Sanctuary 2 miles away. Rhodes had a massive chariot stadium, temples to Athena and Zeus, and one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a 100-foot statue of Colossus, which was in ruins by the time Paul visited.
And Patara.
Patara has triumphal arches, a parliament building, and an antique theater that seats 6,000 spectators.
From there, he sailed south of Cyprus and on to Syria, landing in Tyre. The disciples in Tyre tried to convince Paul not to go to Jerusalem, but he sailed on to Ptolemais and then to Caesarea, where he stayed with Philip the evangelist. Here, Agabus bound Paul's hands and feet with his own belt, prophesying that the Jewish leaders in this way would bind Paul and hand him over to the Gentiles. But Paul would not be dissuaded. On his way to Jerusalem, he stayed in the home of Mnason, and then arriving in Jerusalem, he met many believers, including James.
And that was the end of Paul's third missionary journey.